All right, so you want to know what everyone's going to be talking about before this weekend's college football playoff games.
Well, I think we've got the perfect deep dive for you.
We're talking Penn State versus SMU.
You bet. And you send us all the stuff about predictions and odds and...
Analyses of the teams.
Yeah.
So we're going to break it all down for you. You can sound like a total expert
Exactly.
before kickoff.
Yeah, and what a game, right? I mean, two really storied programs.
Yeah.
But I was actually surprised to find out this is actually their first ever playoff matchup.
Wow, first ever.
Ever.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so we're going to dig into some of that historical context, too, and see what we can find out.
Okay, so first things first. #6 Penn State taking on #11 SMU.
Mm-hmm.
December 21st.
That's right.
Noon Eastern time.
Big one.
The game is at Beaver Stadium.
Oh, tough place to play.
Which anyone who's a Penn State fan
Oh, yeah.
will tell you that is an intimidating atmosphere for the visiting team.
Home field advantage.
Yeah, you can catch it on TNT, Max, or Fubo TV. And the winner of this one goes on to face, #3 Boise State
Wow.
in the Fiesta Bowl.
That's a big one. So, yeah, the stakes are pretty high.
Stakes are high.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the betting odds. Because right out of the gate, Penn State is a pretty heavy favorite.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at an 8.5-point spread, and the money line is somewhere between Mennica 310 and Mennica 350.
For the Nittany Lions.
For the Nittany Lions.
Yeah.
So what that means is, if you want to bet on them to win straight up, you're going to have to risk a lot more
Right.
to win a smaller amount.
Exactly.
So Vegas is pretty confident
Because I was like...
in Penn State. But let's talk about the predictions,
Okay.
where they're actually putting points on the board.
Well, sources like Dimers.com and CFN, they are calling for a Penn State victory as well. Dimers is saying 30-22.
Okay.
CFN's got it at 34-24. And the over-under for total points is right around 54.5. But there's this Sportsline projection model that is leaning towards a higher scoring game. They're predicting 60 points.
Wow.
And what's interesting about this model, and I mean, it's considered pretty accurate, it simulates game outcomes like thousands of times. And they use all this data like team performance, player stats, even things like coaching styles.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Okay, so that begs the question, could this be closer than the odds makers are predicting?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So on paper, Penn State looks pretty dominant, right? Their defense is ranked 19th nationally in offensive success rate allowed.
Which, just for folks who don't know, that means they're really good at stopping offenses.
Yeah.
From consistently.
Moving the chains.
Yeah, moving the chains and scoring.
Yep.
So their defense is tough. What about their offense?
So they have a really strong balanced attack. Their quarterback, Drew Aller, he's known for making smart decisions. He protects the ball.
Yeah.
And they've also got this really dynamic duo in the backfield, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. Both of these guys can just rack up serious yardage.
Okay, so it sounds like SMU's got their work cut out for them. But, I mean, they must have some strengths, right? They made it to playoffs.
Absolutely. So they have a good offense,
Okay.
led by quarterback Kevin Jennings. He's had a stellar season. He even threw for over 300 yards in their recent loss to Clemson. And then, they got Brashard Smith, who gives them a decent run game.
Okay, so we've got a potential clash of styles brewing here. We've got Penn State's tough defense.
Right.
Up against SMU's potent offense.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where things get really interesting because, like we said, the historical data doesn't really give us much
It doesn't.
to go off of.
Yeah.
These teams have only played twice before.
Right.
And the last time was way back in 1978.
1978. So we're kind of in uncharted territory, which always makes for a more exciting playoff matchup.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure. Yeah, it definitely makes it more difficult to predict. But, we can look at some key factors that might give us a better sense of how this game could go.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for Penn State to really dominate this game, right,
Their defense really needs to shut down SMU's passing attack. And we've got to kind of look beyond just the overall rankings and think about specific matchups. For example, Penn State's defensive line is known for its aggressive pass rush. So if they can really get to Kevin Jennings, disrupt his timing, force him into making quick decisions,
right,
that could be a huge advantage for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah. And so how does SMU's offensive line kind of match up against that? I mean, is there any chance they could neutralize that strength for Penn State?
Well, I think that's the key question here. If their offensive line can hold their own and give Jennings enough time to find his receivers, then it could get interesting. We've seen Jennings make big plays, even when he's facing pressure, but doing that consistently against a defense like Penn State's,
Right.
that's a tall order.
Yeah, no, totally different beast.
It is.
Okay, so a lot hinges on that battle in the trenches. But what about Penn State's offense? I mean, what do they need to do to control this game? Well, I think balance is going to be key. We've talked about their strong run game.
Right.
But, Drew Aller can't just hand the ball off every play. He needs to make smart decisions, connect with his receivers, move the chains through the air, especially if SMU's defense is, really focusing on stopping the run.
Right. Keep them guessing.
Exactly. Keep them on their toes.
Now, let's flip the script for a second.
Okay.
What would need to happen for SMU to pull off this upset?
A few things. First of all, Kevin Jennings has to have an absolutely phenomenal game. And we're talking surgical precision passing, extending plays with his legs, making clutch throws when it matters most. He's got to perform at a level we haven't really seen from him yet this season.
Okay, so even a superhuman performance from Jennings, that still might not even be enough.
You're right. They can't rely solely on him. They've got to establish some kind of running game to keep Penn State's defense honest. If they become too one-dimensional and predictable, Penn State's defense is going to feast.
Yeah, so no turnovers, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, giving Penn State extra possessions, especially in their own territory,
It's disastrous.
not going to be disastrous for SMU.
Absolutely. Field position is going to be crucial in this game. SMU's special teams need to step up, win the field position battle, give their offense the best chance to succeed.
Right.
And, we can't forget about the potential impact of the weather.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The infamous Pennsylvania cold.
Pennsylvania cold. So how might that factor into the game?
Well, SMU, coming from Texas, they're not exactly used to playing in freezing temperatures.
Right.
And cold weather can really affect everything from ball handling to player movement.
Yeah.
So it could definitely play a role,
Right.
especially if there's any precipitation. Okay, so we've got this potential for a high-scoring game. We've got this clash of styles, legendary home field advantage. We've got the wild card of the weather. It's shaping up to be a pretty captivating matchup. But let's just bring it all the way back around to our initial question. I mean, do you think this game could be closer than the experts are predicting?
I honestly wouldn't be surprised. While Penn State has the clear edge on paper, SMU, they have that underdog mentality. They have the offensive firepower to potentially keep things close. And, we can't forget about Coach James Franklin and his, let's say, less than stellar track record in big games. I mean, could that be a factor here?
Yeah, that's a good point. So how do you think that plays into this?
Well, he has struggled in some high-pressure situations. But if you look at those were mostly later round playoff games,
Right.
bowl games, with those national championship implications. This is a first-round matchup. The pressure might not be quite as intense.
You're saying this could be his chance to kind of rewrite that narrative.
Exactly. Prove he can handle the pressure.
Yeah.
It really adds another layer of intrigue to this already fascinating matchup.
Man, this is why we love college football. So
Yeah.
unpredictable.
Absolutely. And that's why we love to analyze it.
All right, so I feel like we've covered a ton of ground here. From like the historical context to the betting odds, we've analyzed the team's strengths and weaknesses. We even talked about coaching history and the weather.
Yeah, we really went deep. But we got to remember, this is really just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. And remember, our goal was to equip you, dear listener, with the knowledge you need to impress your friends.
Sound like a college football expert.
Exactly. So let's distill it all down.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways here?
Okay. So, takeaway number 1, Penn State versus SMU. Historic matchup. First ever playoff meeting.
Yeah.
Only their third meeting ever.
That's a good one to drop
Right.
in the pregame. Okay, takeaway number 2.
Penn State, they're the clear favorite.
Right.
But don't sleep on SMU. They've got that explosive offense that could keep things close. And, those betting odds, they kind of hint at a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
So buckle up for some offensive fireworks.
Oh, okay. Speaking of offense, takeaway number 3.
Yeah.
The quarterback battle. This is one to watch. You've got Drew Haller's experience going up against Kevin Jennings in his hot streak. I mean, that's a storyline in and of itself.
No, for sure.
Okay. And takeaway number 4.
Enjoy the game.
Yeah.
This is what college football is all about. The passion, the upsets, the unforgettable moments.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
But as always, we want to leave you with something to ponder, right? So, could this game actually be closer than everyone thinks? What would have to happen for SMU to pull off a stunning upset?
Think about those key matchups that we talked about. The battle in the trenches, Jennings' ability to just make plays on the pressure, and then the impact of the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the factors that can really swing this game.
So if you're watching, dear listener, keep those in mind. See if you can predict the ball.
And who knows, maybe we'll have another deep dive after the game and break down the results. But until then, enjoy the game.
That's a wrap. Now it's time to enjoy the show. We'll catch you next time